Okay, so I was on a group with my on the online online with my group this morning, and friends of mine that were on a trip together in December, and everyone was kind of talking about, where have you been? How'd you get here? And I thought, well, I live in Little Rock, Arkansas, but I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. But I didn't. It's like I came full circle. So short and sweet. When I was younger, I never really kind of felt like I fit in Little Rock. I don't know why, but I didn't. It's like I didn't have a clique of friends. I was kind of friends with everybody, and I don't know. I didn't feel like I could be me for some reason. So, pardon me. After I finished college, I was out one night with some friends, and they had introduced me to this guy, super sweet guy. God rest his soul. And I was hanging out with him, and we were having, a big group of us having a great time. And we all had way too much to drink. And I was in my 20s, don't judge. And we got up the next morning, and I was a nurse at the time. And so he was really, really hungover. And they were going to a bachelor party in Memphis, and he said, I don't know how I'm going to make it. And I was like, oh, I can hook you up. I got friends. So he was super excited because he got an IV infusion and felt like $100. And he's like, why don't you, he lived in LA. And he said, why don't you move out to LA? And I was like, you're crazy. Why would I move to LA? And he said, you're always talking about going somewhere. And I used to talk all the time to my friends about moving to, at the time it was Czechoslovakia. It's now Czech Republic, obviously. But for those that don't remember, at the time you could live like a king in Czechoslovakia for like $1,000 a year or $500 a year, and you could stay in hostels. At the time, I was in my 20s, y'all, and travel all over Europe by rail at the time. So, I really, really, really wanted to go spend a year in Czechoslovakia, and people kept saying, yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go. And nobody ended up going. And I just never got to go. So we're standing in the middle of the road, and he's getting ready to leave for Memphis. And he said, so move to LA. And I was like, I'm not moving to LA. And he said, you know what your problem is? And I was like, no, but I think you're going to tell me. And he said, your problem is you're always saying you're going to do this and that. You're never going to do anything. You're going to spin your wheels in this one-horse town. No offense, Little Rock. Not my words. And you're going to tell your grandkids, I almost did this and I almost did that. But you're not going to do crap. He said something else. And he turned around and walked off. And I was like, pissed. So I got in my car and I was like, God, I just hooked you up with an IV and everything. And then I was so angry, and I thought, why am I so angry? And I was angry because he was right. I was going to totally regret it if I didn't get out and do something. So I went home, excuse me, I got a tickle, and I got on the phone because there was no internet, and called up a travel nurse company and said, hey, what do you got? And they said, actually, we're desperate for nurses in Los Angeles because of the Northridge earthquake had just happened. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it wasn't my first choice, but, whatever. So I did not tell him for 3 months I was there. I did not tell him. I ended up moving to Los Angeles by myself. Didn't know a soul. First day of work at UCLA, true story, my car broke down, and I had to run through, the frat houses and everything to get to the hospital. Anyway, long story short, Lloyd Bridges ended up, I was taking care of a friend of his, calling my dad to get my car fixed. True story. There's so many funny stories from LA, but I'll get to those later. So I lived out there, and then moved down to Manhattan Beach in Los Angeles, and then dated a guy in New York City, and we used to fly because it was so cheap back then, y'all. Used to fly back and forth all the time. And we broke up, and I was like, man, I do not miss him, but I totally miss New York. So my roommate got pregnant and decided I don't know if she was moving to New Zealand. I don't know what she was doing. But I didn't know she had period. I thought she was bulimic. She was like 80 pounds. But somehow she got pregnant. Anyway, I moved to New York City by myself, again, not knowing a soul. Really funny stories there, including the first day. But that's for later. And then I ended up tragically getting married the first time. New York can be kind of lonely, I think. And ended up with 2 cats and a husband, so there you go. Moved with him to Destin, Florida. Sorry, Destin, I love you to vacation, but I hated living there. And I wasn't fond of him either. So I left him in Destin on Valentine's Day, appropriately, and moved, ended up living in Dallas, Fort Worth for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and went back to anesthesia school and then came home. And I came home because I wanted to start a family, and I wasn't going to do that anywhere away from my mom. I had lost my dad in 2002. So I wasn't going to start a family away from her, and I would never have my kids away from her. So that's how I got here, full circle. And I always said I would never come back, but not because of my family. I just didn't think I could be me. The only place I ever really felt I could be me was in New York. But you know what? The older I get, I'm like, gonna be me. So this is me. Everyone says you ought to live in LA once for a little while, but not too long because you'll get too soft. And that everyone should live in New York at least once for a little while, but not too long because you get too hard. I lived in both, and I think I turned out just right. So anyway, that is how I got here. Y'all have a good night.